Awesome. Okay, welcome everybody. There we go. Now we can start. Okay. Baruch Hashem, we are here with another SAI for our Chassidus New Year. This is, I have to again give a shout out to the hard work that Ruta put into this, because look how gorgeous. I mean, she did the readings and I helped with the design, but it's been such a pleasure. And the readings are so fresh and so good and so new. So we're doing this program. So I want to celebrate every single person who works so hard in their daily reading. And it's actually, this is today's prize. If you guys don't yet know or don't realize, when the Alter Rebbe was in the court hearing with this whole prison thing, like, we celebrate the fact that he's out, but we forget that there were 53 days of stuff that happened. So during that time, many of the accusations against him and against Chassidus were discussed in a court setting. And the Alter Rebbe actually had made a written deposition that was then translated into Russian, and then now we have it, so we've been translated to English. And it's this short little booklet, but it blows your mind. My husband read it a few times already in previous years, not this particular printing, but and then we've raved about it nonstop. It really gives a good grasp, short but but to the point, a good grasp of what the Alter Rebbe was dealing with. What's the difference between Chassidus and non-Chassidus? What's the difference between the Chassidic lifestyle? Like, he was being put on trial, and now he had to stand up and say, okay, this is the truth. You guys think we're, coming out to make up a new religion. No, this is exactly what we're here to do, and this is what we're here to accomplish. So every single person who earned the prize gets this beautiful book, and I will guiltily admit that I think I bought out every single store in Crown Heights. So kol hakavod to everyone who got one, because I was like, okay, we need to get it. And then one store had 5, the other store had 3, the other store had 12. So I was like, okay, boop, boop. I went down Kingston, picking them all up. I apologize. But there'll be more printings, I promise. All right, I don't promise, I hope. Okay, so our winners for today's, or are the people who earned today's prize, are Ruta Cohen, Adina Lapine, Naomi Schleifer, Callie Aronson, Yehudis Hecht, Esther Citrin, Ricky Winner, Fegi Shvei, Ariella Zuckerman, Esther Malka Cohen, Sima Dashevsky, Nechamadina Herzl, Yosef Awud Eisenberg, Rachel Schmerling, Shelby Aronson, Bracha Zirkin. If you haven't yet told me that you earned this prize, please do so. And a huge mazel tov. How do you know that? You counted as I said it? Oh my goodness, you're amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it next week.
Baruch Hashem. Okay, so our topic for today, I was asked by a few people. They said that they would rather me speak, because Eutectic Slave feels like such a big Yom Tov, and you go to the big Neshei Chabad event, and you go to the big speaker, and at the end of the day, when you come out of it, you've really gotten some inspiration from above. It has come from, someone else telling you what to feel, someone else telling you what it's all about, and particularly one person who asked me, she said, I really would like to have a good, comfortable, let's actually internalize all this stuff for Farbrengen. And she said, I think you're really good at making that happen. So, which then that led to the topic. And the topic for tonight is, let me just read it. The topic for tonight is From Learning to Living, a Life-Changing Process. And the reason why we chose this topic, and it's actually I say we because my husband was very much involved in this topic, was because Chassidus is beautiful and Chassidus is powerful, and it's even more impressive when it's lived. not just learned, which is kind of the whole living Chassidus flavor. Our goal for living Chassidus is for three things. One topic is called learning, and that we should learn and live with that message. The other topics are community and support, which we do so with other programs. But our learning is definitely very much grounded in, okay, this is a concept. Now, how do I apply it to my life? How do I live with this concept that'll actually change my world? It'll actually change my mindset. It'll actually change, and as you can see on the logo, it's glasses, and it'll change my viewpoint, my perspective in the way I see the world. I will see the world through Hashem glasses. That's our flavor. So I had the great schos. I was invited yesterday to speak for Benos Chumash. I was part of a panel discussing Chassidus, Eutectic Slave, what clicked for me, what didn't click for me, how did it click for me. And it was such an incredible schus, not only because it forced me to process the questions, like they sent the panelists the questions beforehand. So it forced me to really bring it out with myself and with my husband. All good Farbrengens happen with my husband. But then I also had the schos to be able to hear the rest of the panelists and their answers. So not only did I get to give and gain from my own knowledge, but I also got to gain from everybody else's knowledge. So I actually wanted to share something that someone else said. She was telling her story, and she was basically explaining that as much as growing up, she had a lot of Chassidish pride. She was like, the Rebbe is amazing, and Chabad, and there's nothing but Chabad, and But at the same time, and these are her own words, she was a total troublemaker. Like, she would get kicked out of every class, and she would spend more time in the hallway or the principal's office than in the classroom. She really had quite a passion, and not always was it put in the right direction. And then she spoke about how she always not made fun, but she always got a kick out of seeing other people going to seminary, and they go to seminary and they get all like, wow, and they start floating in a cloud, and then they come back all semmed out, and they're like, oh, Chassidus is so good. And she was kind of laughing at the whole thing. And she said, and then I went to seminary, and I had the hashgacha pratis of landing in a seminary that took my challenging personality and said, okay, we're not kicking you out of class. Let's do it face on. And she kept asking questions and pushing and pushing and pushing. And the seminary, the different teachers, the different Farbrengeners, she mentioned the specific Farbrengen that really changed her life. But they said, okay, come, bring it on. We'll take your challenges, and we'll talk it out. Let's do this. So through that, I'll quote a story that she mentioned, that she said, I don't remember what date of the year it was, but it was a particularly big Farbrengen, Yud Shvat, or I don't know which date. But she mentioned that she said to the Farbrengener, why should I still stay frum after I finish seminary? And he said to her, because. She goes, because what? Because why? Because it's not enough. Like, what do you mean? Why should I? And she kept going. Why should I stay? He said, because. And it just like fired her up. It can't just be because. And at the end, he kept pushing. He said, you know what? No matter what I tell you, no matter what fancy answers I can pull from any sefer or the beautiful and understanding of this pasuk, it's just not going to do it for you, because keeping Torah, keeping mitzvahs, and doing what's right, you're doing it because that's what's right. It is. This is what Hashem wants from you. That's because. And she said it shook her. She said, I'd never lived with the concept of Kabbalah soul. If it made sense to me, I kept it. If it didn't make sense to me, I didn't. And this Farbrengen changed her life. And she said, ever since, she's just realized that the bottom, the baseline of it all is that this is what we do. Hashem asked us to do this, and this is what we do. That wasn't the point of the story, but it was very powerful when she said it. She came back, and she was expecting to be made fun of, as she made fun of so many other people that came back from seminary in this like bubble high. And meanwhile, all of her friends and her family members, they just looked at her and they said, wow, you haven't changed. You're still you, but you're just much happier. You look so much more calm, so much more relaxed. You look like you're in your element now. And she was so surprised. She's like, I thought I'd, woo, seminary high. And then she realized, 1 second, what am I going to do now? What happens after seminary is going to make the absolute impact on what's going to happen for my future. And this is the reason I'm telling this is a beautiful story. She said she was she wrote a letter asking a letter to the Rebbe asking for clarity. What should she do? How can she balance? Because if she comes back to the same environment, it's going to go back to the same old stuff. And apparently she was, I don't remember where she was, but she was watching a gem video Motzei Shabbos, as is a minhag for many. She was watching a gem video Motzei Shabbos, and the Rebbe was saying, you have to keep learning every single day. Learning isn't something that you do sporadically. Learning isn't something that you just do when you have time. When I have time, you have to keep learning every single day. And meanwhile, she's like, oh, whoa. And then the Rebbe followed. He said, I'm not talking to your mother. I'm not talking to your father. I'm not talking to your sister. I'm not talking to your brother. I am talking to you. And she clearly, whoa. And she said that moment, literally Motzei Shabbos, she found every single friend from seminary or friend from before, and she called them and she said, hi, I'm doing this new project. I'm going to be learning every single day. Can you learn with me on Tuesday? Hung up. Can you learn with me on Wednesday? Hung up. Can you learn with me on Thursday? And she found a chavrusa that worked. Not necessarily it was an hour, 2 hours. She wasn't, she continued on with life and life continued. But she made a chavrusa for every single day. And she was saying this in the panel, and she was saying, that's your key to success. You need to be learning every single day. And she said, for me, it worked that I found the chavrusa. It worked that with a chavrusa, I was able to keep some sort of stability, some sort of, how do you say achrayus? Responsibility. Thank you, responsibility. You had to, keep it. And that for me was really powerful.
Who was this?
I didn't ask her if I could share her name, so I don't, but maybe I'll ask her next time I could share. Anyway, so it was such an incredible experience for me, not just because from what I said, but also because of what I got to hear and what I got to learn. And it really, one of the things that I spoke about after she said that, because it inspired a concept in me, is that there's a very famous sikha, which I'm sure everyone's learned. I think the nickname for it is the Margalia sikha, about the pearls. Yeah. So for me, one of the most powerful images that I got from that was, I'm a very visual person. So when I learn, I picture whatever it is that I'm learning. Or when I read, I picture in my mind what I'm reading. So I could just close my eyes and I could picture the exact same mental image that I made out of that sikha, which is a person digging into the ground. They know that there are diamonds. There are diamonds under there. There's precious stones under the ground, and they have to dig to go get it. They have to dig, they have to dig, they have to dig. And as they dig deeper and deeper, they themselves are going deeper and deeper into the ground. And at some point, you have to turn back and say, I need to make sure that I can still reach some oxygen. If I'm digging so deep that I lose my source of oxygen, that's it. The project is finished. Not to mention I'm finished. And connecting as much as we have a mission in this world, and we have to dig deep, whether deep means whatever job you're doing, whether deep means whatever place you're traveling, whether deep means whatever personal struggle or interpersonal struggle or family challenge or shidduchim challenge, whatever challenge you're dealing with, you're digging deep because you need to go make a dir b'tachtainim in that place. You need to find that diamond. You need to find that spark. Hashem sent you on a mission with your particular challenge to dig deep and make a dwelling for Hashem there. But in our digging, we have to not lose our source of oxygen. And what's our source of oxygen? Constantly connecting to the mission why we're here. And that is first and foremost Torah. And for anyone who listened to my husband's daily share about Inyana Shel Torah Chassidus, we know that the source of all things is essentially Chassidus. Chassidus is what shows us how the world was made, how it is, why we do what we do. Chassidus is the blueprint of it all. And in order to continue digging and not lose our way, in order to continue digging and continue doing our personal shlichus wherever we are, continue dealing with our struggles, we have to constantly connect to oxygen. We have to constantly connect to learning Chassidus, learning Torah. Make it a constant part of your life. And I think one of the biggest parts of that sikha that really gave me inspiration was that one of the wordings were, I'm not quoting it exactly, but it was something along the lines of, you can't just breathe on Mondays and Thursdays. I'll take extra breaths Monday, I'll hold my breath Tuesday, and then Wednesday I'll struggle a little bit, then Thursday I'll return. Learning is like breathing. We need to constantly give that boost of oxygen, consistent and constant. And that for me is one of the parts that that really I always get inspired about on Eutectic Slave, because Eutectic Slave shows us this is it. This is what we need to be connecting, and this is a brand new year to keep breathing. Let's keep breathing. Let's keep shining light into our challenges, because we're looking for that diamond. We need to find that diamond, and we need to make a home for Hashem in every stage of our lives, wherever we are, whatever challenges we're dealing with. I mean, whoever came early, you guys heard, I've lived a nomadic life for the past 20-ish hours, not 20, 12 hours. Dealing with some interesting things in my apartment, so I've just been out and about. Yes, interesting preparations for a house. Hashem is preparing us to move into a house, maybe soon, amen. Anyway, so whatever challenge it is that you're dealing with, that you can find an answer for that. Now, I wanted to share, first of all, any comments, questions? It doesn't have to be a monologue. Okay. So I wanted to share, this is one of my, as many of you know, I'm a total bookaholic. And what's cool about it is I actually read them. So this is my latest, this is my latest prize, my latest prized possession, obsession, whatever we want to call it. There you go. It's an incredible book by Dovber Pinson. Everyone who's heard Rachi Pinson, she's spoken for us before. So it's her husband. They run the Eon Center in Gowanus here in Brooklyn. And he wrote an incredible book called Illuminated Sound, the Baal Shem Tov on Prayer. It was actually really funny. I was a few weeks ago when it was still warm. There's a Shamsun again. Okay, well, when it was still warm, I was out at the park with some other moms and their kids, and the moms were all talking about what they were reading. And I'm a little bit of a dork, so I'm like, I'm reading this amazing book on the Baal Shem Tov and davening. And they were like, okay, interesting. Interesting. I'm like, it's actually cool, guys, I promise. So anyway, so one of the reasons why I really enjoy it is because the Baal Shem Tov has a very refreshing take on davening. And I actually have never heard of it put in such a way. And I'm also slightly obsessed with davening, so I've read almost every davening book out there. But one of the beautiful, refreshing messages that I've been getting from this book is that the Baal Shem Tov was very big on flexibility. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? The Baal Shem Tov truly believed that davening needs to be in our space where we are holding. I think one of the biggest challenges for me after seminary was I can't daven the way I used to daven. And also I was in Svas, so I used to go to the top, yeah, exactly, and just, it's a gorgeous, beautiful sight, and take my sitter and just, like melt into it and blah, 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 blah. And I came here and I'm like, okay, work. And then I got married that summer. It's just like, and ever since I've been kind of chasing the tail of like, how do I get that feeling back? How do I get that feeling back? Every once in a while, I'm like, wow, that was a powerful davening. That was beautiful. But it's a constant chase around.
So now like the standard you should hold yourself with davening is kind of different every day.
Yes, it is.
Sometimes it's like you can't even do what you did yesterday.
Yes, and you know what's so interesting? The way that Rav Pinson speaks about it here is that the Baal Shem Tov even said that we should also be flexible within the same davening. Like, and I've been dealing with this, that sometimes, especially on Shabbos, I'm like, I pull out all my starim, and I'm like sitting there, wow, davening. Like I get to Baruch She'amar, it's so inspiring, and I get to Ashrei, and it's
so
inspiring. But yes, thank you. It's so inspiring.
Because that one makes sense.
That expiring.
Well,
that's hilarious. Close and Nefesh.
Wants to go close to it.
Funny story, since we're doing like a small Farbrengen style, hilarious story. When I was giving birth, Klaus and Nefesh, the Nigan Klaus and Nefesh is one of my favorite Nigunim. One of my closest friends, actually, we have a friend in common. She came to my wedding, and right before Kabbalah's Panim, she sat next to me and sang it into my ear, and it, incredible. But anyway, so Klaus and Nefesh is a really powerful Nigan. So I was thinking, I'm giving birth, I should put my favorite Nigunim. It was just so powerful, and I like had it on repeat. And as it's getting more intense, my husband's like, 1 second, that's Klaus and Nefesh. Like her neshama is like, the whole niggin is the neshama leaving. And he's like, no. So he ran in, he took my phone, he switched it to Yeridus and Neshama Baguf. And I actually gave birth listening to the niggin Yeridus and Neshama Baguf. But anyway, funny story. So now you know what Levi was born with. So anyway, so it's really, really powerful, because one of the things that, so funny, I opened to the exact page. So actually, I'll read it. In other words, we need to sense what is working in the moment, what is expanding us, what is expanding us or making us feel more connected to Rabbanu Shalom, and what is just a fixed routine, even with regards to positive practices. The Chayza of Lublin, after writing about the various positive customs he took upon himself, writes, all the above practices have infinite branches and details, and yet sometimes a person has to act in exactly the opposite way.
So you shouldn't keep the older statement hanging of davening.
You have to be flexible to where you're holding. Right now I'm inspired, so do an inspired davening. If you're inspired for Baruch She'amar, but you're less inspired for Ashrei, don't force it. You don't have to force it. Go with the flow. And sometimes going with the flow will help you connect better to Hashem. Lav Dafka will help you connect better to your davening, but it'll help you connect better to Hashem. Sometimes we spend so much time trying to make this perfect davening, this perfect learning session, this perfect experience, and we lose the Hashem behind it all.
The relationship part.
Yes.
And more natural.
Exactly. And the way that it's, I wonder if I can open it again. Here, the next section. Flexibility is vital in Avodas Hashem, even within the same day or within the same davening. What worked earlier does not necessarily work now. We need to be open to sometimes doing the opposite of our habitual pattern. Before davening, we need to take a minute to tune into our body, mind, heart, and spirit, so we can sensitively harness them for deeper davening. Sometimes you just need a quick davening, and with a quick davening, you say, I davened. I'm not going to do a hand raise, but I'll raise my hand for this one.
Can I just comment one thing? I know, like, I'm probably not the only person that sometimes has a hard time even davening the full davening. I kind of have like a shortened version that I do all the time, and then the longer one that I do other times.
Yes.
Can I also apply that?
Yes,
concept?
yes, absolutely, absolutely, and not with the feeling of, oh, I'm just gonna,
Like I'm half a Jew today.
exactly. No, it's a feeling of, this is where I'm holding, and this is where my Nefesh Bahamas, Nefesh Kiss battle is going, and I'm willing to win with my Nefesh Kiss on a shorter davening than lose to my Nefesh Bahamas on a, hopefully I'll do a longer davening sometime. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like I see it as like, I don't want to become resentful.
Yeah, because sometimes I
Of
push myself, I'm
davening?
like literally like I
Yes,
don't even want to be here anymore kind of thing. Like if I push myself too hard to stay with the sitter the whole way through.
correct,
Reading.
correct.
It's a lot of reading.
But at that point, it is only reading. At that point, it's
And it's a
not.
lot of it.
Yeah.
Correct. And so it blew my mind to hear it like this. I'd never heard it said that way, or so plain and simple. What davening worked for you today may not be what works for you tomorrow. What the style of inspiration that you had by Baruch Shamar may not be there by the time you get to Shema. And daven in that moment, connecting to Hashem. Okay, so today I didn't say the whole full blah, 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 because I didn't say it by rote, but the parts that I said, I really tried. I made an effort. If today I can say Baruch Shamar and really mean it, Hashem created the world, and I just thought about those two words. Whoa, Hashem created the world, and that was powerful, beautiful. Connect to Hashem in the place where you are. And through that, you'll build that relationship to get to a better place. Your short davening today might lead you to say, you know what? Maybe tomorrow I can add one more small piece. Maybe. Or even if tomorrow you don't add one more small piece, but you say, maybe tomorrow I can actually think about Ashrei, a line from Ashrei.
It's like, or even just like on Shabbos, I'm more motivated to daven more because like I actually miss davening because during the week I daven a shorter daven, and like on Shabbos I'll daven longer. I'm like, because of that on Shabbos, I'm like, I get to daven because I don't push myself during the week, make myself late, because it takes extra time when you're trying to daven before work. I'm like, and you're trying to focus, and then you just like, you're late. So I'm like, I just keep a certain regimen, and then like on Shabbos, it's like I'm so much more motivated to daven because I'm in this good terms with God thing. And there's no guilt, there's no pressure from things around me because of my davening. And like it's just, and like in any relationship, like nothing should be like crunching, you know what I mean? And like if this is supposed to be a relationship, it's supposed to be a Chabad that's like real about Hashem and everything, like of course like I have to be like real about it and not like machine.
Absolutely.
Machine made davening.
You have to make it shmura. Okay, so that was one piece that I feel like this whole Eutectic Slave I've been living with so much. The fact that, and he even says it's in the entire Avodas Hashem. It's not just in davening. It's in your Avodas Hashem. wherever you are, whatever place where you are, not place physical location, the place where you're holding, be alive in that moment. No need to get guilty, and because that's also, by the way, when you're beating yourself up. And here's how to tell. Where is this leading to? Is this leading to growth, or is this leading to negativity? If I'm beating myself up because I didn't daven, blah, 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 and then fine, I'm in such a bad mood that now I'm not going to do the next good thing. Then think about it. Where is this?
You're beating yourself up about your lack of kavanah. Could be instead of your kavanah.
That is actually true. If you're beating yourself up about your lack of kavanah, then you could change that, switch those things. Think about the kavanah. Yes. But anyway, so to flip it back to not just davening, but to flip it back to how do we implement this in our entire Avodah? I wanted to actually share a really beautiful piece. So this is something I actually shared yesterday at the, I got rid of my notes. I actually shared yesterday when I spoke for Benos Chomish. One of the questions that we were asked was, when did Chassidus click for you? Like, when do you feel like Chassidus just, this is the right path. This is my path. This is, and how? And so everybody had a different story and a different piece of Chassidus, and it was really beautiful to hear. It was also really nice because their principal started the whole program by saying, these women are going to share what clicked for them or what works for them, but just take it and make it your own. You don't have to cookie cutter what they're saying, but whatever it is that jives with you, take it. And if it doesn't jive with you, then don't take it. But anyway, so one of the things that that really clicked for me was when, now it's about to be 9 years. Yes, Yud Aleph Teves, 9 years ago. A good friend of mine was over at my birthday Farbrengen, and yeah, very exciting. At my birthday Farbrengen, and she was saying it was just hilarious because my other friend who I just saw recently, she's like, I remember that Farbrengen like it was yesterday. But anyway, so she was saying, I don't feel that Chassidus is practical. I feel like it's very lofty concepts, and we learned them, and we memorized which world comes when, and what are the orders of the 10 spheres, and da 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 da. But at the end of the day, when I'm struggling with my boss, or when I'm struggling with my roommates, or when I'm having issues with, difference of opinion with my parents, or whatever, how can Chassidus help me there? And she really felt like she had to go elsewhere to find answers. And I spent about 4 or 5 hours doing this for Ray and being like, no, I'm telling you it's real. I'm telling you it's practical. I'm telling you it's real. I'm telling you it's practical. And then we went back and forth. And at the end of the Farbrengen, she's like, okay, fine. If you see it, can you just teach it to us? So Baruch Hashem, we started a share, and we had a running share. And one of them, my marm that we learned, I wasn't necessarily the one to teach it, but one of the marm we learned was Basi Lagani. And we specifically learned it in English because I wanted people to see it and not just get lost in the reading and translating, which a lot of times things get lost in the middle. So one of the pieces that really truly changed my life, which I wanted to share with you guys, was that I want everyone to take a moment and think about, if it's not for Torah, where is your passion going? Like, what are you passionate about that isn't necessarily, or maybe not passionate, what are you into? What do you like that may not be necessarily the the best way to do. Like a bad example is, I know someone who's off of sugar, but they're absolutely obsessed with donuts. So sometimes our passion is going in one direction and where we should be going is in a different direction. So if everyone takes a moment to think about that passion, think about that thing that they really enjoy, that they're really, they have that oomph, that like excitement for, that isn't necessarily something that is benefiting you, that is not necessarily for your benefit. Now, translate that, take that, and then we're going to call it the desire or the passion of the nefesh habahamis, of the animal soul, right? Because it's this thing, not necessarily it's the best thing for you, but it's very exciting and you really connect to it and you really enjoy it. And this is what we'll call the passion of the animal soul. Okay. Now let's read this little piece I'm about to read, and then we'll take a moment and we'll translate what it means. Okay. The turbulent waters are the worries of making a living and the other confusing disturbances that distract the person from his divine service, from the study of Torah and from the observance of the mitzvahs. Despite all these disturbances, rivers cannot drown this fiery love of Hashem, for it resembles heavenly fire that nothing can extinguish. Just as a physical offering was consumed by the divine fire on the altar, similarly in the personal sphere. Okay, so now we're going to translate. What's the offering? The offering, which is each individual's animal soul, has to be consumed by the personal divine fire. In this way, the animal soul too will be taught to develop a love for Hashem. This is hinted in the wording of the phrase of the Shema. Ve'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart. The word used for your heart is not levcha, libcha, right? But levavcha. The doubling of the middle letter suggests a plural form and is thus interpreted by the Gemara to mean that a person is commanded to love Hashem with the whole of your dual heart. In other words, with both your desires, so that the animal soul too will love divinity. And I said, what? 1 second, rewind. You're trying to tell me that the me that's passionate about this other thing, and again, I hope everybody picked something that they're into or passionate about or whatever that isn't necessarily so good for them. So you're saying that my passion for that, there is some way that I can actually overturn it and use that love, that passion, that excitement, use it for godly things. What? What are you talking about? First of all, how is that even possible? And second of all, how do I make that possible? How do I actually make that process? Like, how do I not get pulled in polar opposite directions? How do I actually take that process? So then it continues. This comes about through the enclothement of the divine soul within the animal soul. For initially, the animal soul has no knowledge of divinity, nor any sensitivity for it whatsoever. Nevertheless, big one coming, when the godly soul meditates on spiritual concepts in a matter which the animal soul can also comprehend, the animal soul also draws nearer to them.
Is it because like your natural self kind of enjoys the learning, gets it? Like what's happening?
Good question. When we take a concept in Chassidus and we don't just learn it and leave it, but when we learn it and we explain it to ourselves as if we're explaining it to our animal soul, which really is our thought process. I mean, I hope we learn in Tanya that there's actually, exactly. So there's the nefesh habahamis and the nefesh halikis, and they're two nefashos, and they're arguing back and forth. But who's the you who's playing, who's listening to the argument is called the nefesh sichlis, that's the neutral you. So setting that aside for a moment, the excited you, I'm going to scroll on Instagram or social media till the wee hours of the night, I'm going to sleep in even though I'm really meant to be waking up to do something. I'm going to spend time obsessing about something that really isn't what's best for me. Whatever it is, or I'm going to stress about the what ifs. Oh, I know the what ifs party. What if this? What if that? What if this? What if that? And then you're like, and you're freaking out, having a panic attack, where like none of the what ifs have happened, and probably none of them will happen. So, if we take a moment and we say this concept in Chassidus, I can explain it to that nervous wreck over yonder, aka the what if me. I can actually explain it to them. I can explain it in such a way that they too will understand. It's not two separate points. It's not the excited me who went to Farbrengen, got all inspired, and now I'm coming home on a cloud, and then I'm going to go to sleep, wake up in the morning, and start, what is it called? Tabula rasa? A blank slate? Just, yeah, okay. As if nothing happened. It was such cool inspiration. I've actually had that before. I go to Farbrengen, I come home, my husband's like, wow, that's so cool. You're so inspired. Yeah. What did he say? I don't remember, but it was so cool. Right? So we need.
This is just pure entertainment. It seems like before.
The real job in taking Chassidus and making it livable so it actually makes an impact in our lives is to take a moment and say, I need to re-explain what I just learned to my younger, excited, super pumped animal soul.
Is it specifically to the challenge that you had, or like?
Good question. The question was, is it specifically to the challenge that you have?
Like, let's say you're giving this example of
donut person.
No, I want to think of it more. Sorry.
The
like the example you were saying about
the what if.
The what if, for example. Yeah,
okay. So let me take it. I'll take it and I'll put it into that example. Very good question. So here's how it works. Step one, and this is actually, I will not take credit for this. This is a compilation of different locations, but one of the main ones is Shar Yichud of the Michal Rebbe. The step one is learning whatever you're learning. Let's say, I don't know, do you guys remember the talk that Robert Kremnizer did for us? It's on, we have the recording on Zoom and on YouTube and on Spotify and podcast, whatever. So I'll give an example. I listened to that talk. It was all about simcha and being like with challenges. It was very powerful talk. I listened to that recording live. Not the recording. I listened to the talk live on Zoom. And then I finished and I'm like, whoa, that blew my mind. It was so powerful. It really, truly made such an impact. And then as soon as it was up on Spotify, I listened to it again. And then I woke up the next morning, I'm like, I need to hear that again. And I just played it as I was washing dishes, as I was doing this, as I was living life, but I played it again. And then I played it again. Literally by the end of the week, I had listened to it 5 times. I mean, I did put it at 1.5 speed, granted, but I had listened to it 5 times. And once I had listened to it, or once I had processed the information and I had actually understood the concept, then I was able to apply it to what I was going through. Many of us.
You could apply any random topic to any random challenge.
But one second, and this is
find the relevancy.
This is what I'm going to say. Many of us spend time learning, and we know, oh, it should be applicable. Living Chassidus tells me that I should live with it, and Michal keeps talking about it. And so we learn 3 sentences of a book or 3 sentences of a mimer. We're like, okay, my answer to my challenge with my parents, my challenge with shidduchim, my challenge with my roommates, my my kids, whatever it is, answer must be right here. It's the opening, it's the intro. What do you mean? It's the first 3 lines. Oh, I didn't find the answer there. It can't be. This one's not relevant. Michal, when she talks about it, her maimarim are relevant, the maimarim I learn are not relevant. It's different stuff, right? One second. Rewind. Our first step is to learn whatever it is, the sikha, the maimer, the hayomim, the whatever, and see, do I understand it? Regardless of whether it applies to me. Do I understand the concept? Does it make sense to me? Am I able to repeat it to someone else? Right? So the first one is, do I get it? The next one is, can I share? Do I understand it well enough that I'm able to articulate it and give it to someone else? Once you've had that, which is, by the way, chachma is understanding it yourself, that flash of inspiration. I got it. Bina is, do I understand it enough to be able to formulate the pieces? This is the process. This is the concept. And I will clarify as well, because when I'm still young, but when I was younger, I used to think I have to memorize what every single detail was. So then the Rebbe quoted Gemara, Daf, da-da-da. 1 second. Do I understand? Yes. Do I understand the concept? Do I understand the flow? Do I understand the message that this piece of Chassidus is trying to give me? The amount of Mesiras Nefesh that the Rebbeim, not even the Chassidim, which the Chassidim had immense Mesiras Nefesh as well, but just putting it on the Rebbeim. The Rebbeim had to share Chassidus, to say Chassidus, to print Chassidus. I mean, we all learned the introduction to Tanya yesterday, today. The amount of, you can't reprint it for the next 5 years because we have to make sure that there's no mistakes. And the amount of hard work, hours put into making something that people can literally learn for forever. The stories we hear of how the Rebbetzin Chana literally had Mesiras Nefesh to carry out the handwritten manuscripts of her husband. Like, if she were caught with that and the whole process getting out of Russia through Nazi Germany, Poland, all of that, that is really dangerous. They didn't do this just for us to keep some old stuff. It's not some
our family heirloom.
No, there archives. No, like people, like, they collect them. But they collect things that antiques. There we go. These are not antiques. They have Mesiras Nefesh not because we're gonna, oh wow, Hey Tavis is coming, not because we're gonna sell it for a ton of money for some antique collector. These have a message. We have Mesiras Nefesh to learn Chassidus, and they had Mesiras Nefesh to give us Chassidus because they're trying to give us a message. So step 1 is learn it and say, what message is this trying to give? Not how do I apply it to me? Not what does this mean to me and my roommate? What is this trying to give? Then, once you're able to get that and you get the concept, share with someone else, or at least pretend. I mean, there's plenty of us around. I'm sure you could call someone. Now we're connected with WhatsApp and Zoom. Try and see if you can share it with someone else. If you have the ability to share with someone else, that shows you have an even better grasp of the whole thing. And once you're able to share with someone else, maybe even within yourself, which I think within yourself is much harder, but maybe see if you can say, how does this concept apply to what I'm struggling with? Whether it's having more bitachon in Hashem, whether it's an actual practical, this is how we communicate. There are great maimarim about it. What about Shalom Bayis? L'chadaydi.
Find the lesson, the part that's not given as the lesson. This is the way the Rebbe was normal in the way of doing things. So that should be normal for me.
Yes. Sometimes it's just a shift in perspective. For example, when I grew up I grew up in a family that very much cares about education. They very much care. I mean, particularly also secular education. University is a very big deal. How, like, that's the way you make parnasa. That's the way you make a keli for. It was a huge, huge deal. And then for me to start to hear and learn about the Rebbe's perspective on teaching children secular studies young, and it was like a huge shock to the system. And at first I was like, okay, I don't know if I can swallow all this in one shot. And so it took some years, and it took some reopening and re-looking at it. And can I say that I, swallowed the pill and drank the Kool-Aid in one? No, I did not. But it's once I began to understand the Rebbe's viewpoint on this topic, the Rebbe's viewpoint on, for everyone who read the Chassidus last month, on the moment of silence. I was like, okay, it's a moment of silence. Why are people fighting so hard for it or fighting so hard against it? Once you understand the viewpoint, it's not that you make a shift because you're deciding, I'm going to take a chata, that I'm going to care about the moment of silence. You learn to see the world the way the Rebbe saw the world, sees the world. You learn to see the perspectives. You learn, it's a small change you may not always notice. And I'm going to quote our incredible Ruta. She spoke at the Neshe event. And that's a big topic that she spoke about, that sometimes it's those little things, just a change in perspective. A little bit of learning can give you such a large boost, even if you don't realize, even if today you don't make a change. But your mind, your understanding of the world, once you understand the concept, that has shaped your life for the good. Now, I will say, and this is a troubleshooting, like they give you the directions to something, you buy an oven and they give you the directions, right? So there's troubleshooting at the end, FAQs. So I'll give a little bit of troubleshooting. If you feel that you've learned something, whether it's hayemim, and I'm not saying a huge mimer, I'm not saying a hemshech of 1,000 pages. I'm talking about something small, even if it's hayemim, even if it's the daily reading from our wonderful book, right? If you feel like you learned something and it's not really clicking with you, it's not really applying, or it's not really jiving with what you're dealing with. So here are my two ideas. Idea number one is a little bit harder to swallow, and I'm going to give a gentle. Idea number one is sometimes we don't want an answer to our problem. Sometimes we need to just sit in that problem for a little longer, or we feel like we need to sit in that problem for a little longer. I know that many times when people come and ask for help, or they're venting, they're going through a big struggle, and they go to a friend and they say, I'm going through this and this, and the first thing it's the subway, but they're clinging together. Yeah, there's glass. There you go. Not a ghost. So they go to a friend, and the really incredible, well-meaning friend loves them so much that they don't want that person to be uncomfortable. So they start solving the problem for them. Why don't you? Why don't you change this? Maybe you should change your mindset. Maybe try doing this. Maybe fix it like this, right? There's always good solutions. Everybody else can see things better. And I don't know if everyone is sensitive enough to realize, but I'll speak for myself. Many times when I'm in that situation, I go, even not externally, but internally, I'm like, I don't need you to solve my problem right now. I need to just be listened to. I need someone to just be there with me. I may have my own solutions. I may have my own clarity. I'm just not ready for that yet. And if you are in that stage within that challenge that you're dealing with, the mimer might have your answer, but you might not be ready to see it. So step one is, this is the challenge I'm going through. Am I willing to really set myself aside? Stop blaming others. Stop finding excuses. Stop giving, even not to other people, but excuses for myself of why I'm in this challenge. And am I willing to try and find an answer? Am I ready and willing to find an answer? because Chassidus probably has the answer, or at least has a change of perspective that could give you an idea of an answer. But if you're not ready because you're still fighting against it, it's just not going to work. Does that make sense? And thing number two, my idea to troubleshooting, if it's not working, if you're reading a Rebbe letter and it's just not, it has the answer, but it's not working, but it's not your answer, but whatever, or you're
Not hidden home.
yes, or a mimer or a yemim or whatever it is that you're learning, if it's not hitting home, you might need, or not need, needs a strong word. It might be beneficial to you to learn it with someone and for bringing it out. And with someone who you're able to be comfortable, you're able to be vulnerable, you're able to share your struggle so that they can say, I'm with you and I support you. We can do this together. Let's learn it together and let's see what we get. Because again, if you're coming in and you're asking someone else for help, but you don't want the help because you're not ready for the help. So again, the person's not going to help and the mimer's not going to help, right? But if you've done step one and you said, okay, I'm willing to set aside, whether it's my ego, I'm in an argument with a roommate and can't figure it out, but I'm still angry about it. I'm still upset. I'm not willing to say sorry. I'm not willing to take responsibility for the piece that I did. Maybe she's also wrong. Maybe she also made a mistake. Maybe she also, did whatever she did. But I need to be willing to take responsibility and stop finding blame. Stop blaming someone else. Stop finding excuses. Once you're ready for that, okay, come to a friend, come to a mashpia, come to someone who you know cares about you and would be willing to learn this hayamim with you and say, okay, this is my situation. Let's learn it together and see what could I take from this? What could be the message that Hashem is giving me, that the Rebbe is giving me, that I'm getting the clarity of the lesson I can learn from this? How could I learn something for this? How can this change my life? How can this change my perspective? How can this change the way I handle the situation? And when you have the help of a loving friend, of a loving mashpia, of a loving, could be your mother or your father, whoever it is that is there for you, and you're willing to learn this together with them, that's another way to troubleshoot that. And I've seen that it can help a lot. Yeah, so this is my personal take on, so just to recap, number one is learning consistently. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to take you hours. It can just be something that makes make a kvias, make something, whether it's a chavrusa, whether it's, I'm going to shamelessly promote my husband's 15-minute share in the morning. And if you can't listen from 7:45 to 8, because I myself can't either, I'm taking care of the kids while he's teaching. So there's tons of recordings and you can catch up on it. Adina's incredible, shout out to her. And she puts up the recording usually the day of. So you can take 15 minutes at whatever time works for you and learn just a small piece of Chassidus, just a little bit, whether it's Hayomim, whether it's a Rebbe letter. They are just back in print. These are so powerful. It's English.
Were these letters originally written in English?
From my understanding, yes. These were originally, it's not a translation, which is like, it's smooth English. It's not like I really love them. I love this set. I also am a huge fan. For everyone who's not really like, oh, I don't really have the head to learn inside something. I am a ginormous fan of biographies. One of the things that this person spoke, I'm going to finish because the time is ticking, but one of the pieces that another panelist spoke about was that the moment she surrounded herself with people that she not admired in every single thing, no one's perfect, but she set an environment for herself. She found roommates that she could grow with. She found friends that she could make chavrusas with, as opposed to friends that would go to do other things, right? So I myself, first of all, I surround myself with this incredible group of living Chassidus people. So thank you guys for being my good surrounding. And I'm also very big on surrounding myself with these types of people. I love reading interesting biographies of Chassidim, interesting biographies of, for example, David Zakokovsky has incredible sets, the different books. Shadar, which actually reminds me today, his son passed away, Rabbi Reichik from LA. So we should do this for bringing Lily Nishmas for him. Shimon Halevi ben, oh my gosh, I'm blank. Well, that was, but his father's name is, oh my gosh, Shadar, the actual Shadar. I didn't bring my book with me. No, Shadar is Okay, anyway, so there's incredible biographies out there. If you need inspiration, you can surround yourself with incredible Chassidim from the past. And actually, I hope that there's 2 on women, that are coming out, hopefully for Hey Teves. And if you need ideas of what you can read that might be small or what, I am a bookaholic and I can hopefully help you find something that fits what you need. Okay, Chaim, Good Yom Tov. We should have a year filled with Chassidus that permeates every aspect of our lives. It should flow through us. Oh, funny, I'm going to tell you, one of my kids came home saying, if the Rebbe gets cut, Chassidus flows out. And I'm like, whoa. Yes, so we should be in that level. Shmuel David, thank you very much. So it is Shimon Alevi ben Shmuel David. They should have an Elias and a Shama. We should be reunited with all of our loved ones right now. Okay. Anyway, the idea was that we should be permeated with Chassidus in such a way that it flows through us and that we're able to see the world, our entire lives, with Hashem glasses. Not just glasses, it should be what's the laser surgery into us? Okay, to be continued. Thanks, guys. Any questions, comments, l'chaim, all the brachas?
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Do you know what a kid said today?
What?
I talked to my mommy with Kavana.
Oh!
And it's the funniest thing.
I
Like he's
love that.
processing the word, like talking to Hashem with Kavana. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Talking to my mom with